Hey golfers, and welcome back to the Second Swing YouTube channel. It's another live at lunch back in the tour van fitting bay. It's going to be a good one today. We're continuing our series once again with Cobra Drivers. We've got several Cobra Drivers from the last couple decades here that we're going to test. We're also just going to talk about the history of Cobra Drivers as well. We've got Tyler Fitzel with us, and we've got several drivers here. I can kind of run through the lineup. I know we've got some people in the chat that are already excited about this. That should be a good one. We've had some pretty good results, pretty good success with this entire series so far. We've got an old one here that Tyler found in the clearance rack over at Minnetonka. We're not going to hit it because it's actually maybe a little bit cracked already, and we had an issue last week with a cracked driver that we're going to not even revisit the whole idea this week. But Cobra has a rich history of drivers, and I think Tiger played one back way before, early stages before joining Titleist and joining Nike. He was playing one. So there's a rich history there with Cobra and their drivers. Yeah, and part of that too was the history with Titleist. Cobra was purchased by Titleist. Right. It was part of the Acushnet company for a long time, and they Puma bought them. Shout out to Puma and Cobra, but Puma was all over JJ.
Yeah, that's right.
Winning the U.S. Open, he's got his shoes, his clothes, and whatnot. And
we got this. There's this unique look on the Cobras too. They had this kind of. They were ahead of the game a little bit with the aerodynamics here.
Well, they had a couple things that were interesting about that too. So one is, right, they were very popular. Obviously, one of the most popular players at the time was Greg Norman, and that's what he was playing. Tiger was also playing that style driver, the King Cobra originally, with the steel shaft. So that's back in that day. A little different. But also they had. Several of their fairways had what's called the baffler technology. Yeah. And that's kind of turned into what now is the rails or the railer technology. So when I was looking in the clearance bin, just to kind of see general clubs, there were 7 woods, 9 woods in that model with the rails on the bottom, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, 7 woods and 9 woods go farther back than we think, I feel like. They maybe the went away for a little bit there, but we brought them back. So the first one we're going to test is actually, this is the amp cell, and the amp cell drivers is if some people might remember, this is when we had, I think there were several colors that came out with this one. You had the orange, you had the red, you had blue options here. And Tyler, I don't know if you remember much in terms of fitting these. Do you remember they have like smart pad technology down here? What do you remember about these drivers, and what kind of success they maybe had with golfers out there?
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, if we talk about the face, Cobra's been doing the Hot 9 for a long time. In other words, there's nine spots that they try to focus on in the back. You talk about middle, high, low, and then heel and toe. So they're trying to deviate the hit locations with more impact, kind of what we see in everyone's technology today. Everybody's technology is really about trying to maximize the off-speed ball speed on off-center hits. Cobra's started with it where they've had that 9-point technology behind the face. Then on top of it, what they were really trying to do with that smart pad on the bottom was essentially no matter how you set the shaft, it would lay as flat or as square as possible. So when you set it down, it was squared up, but it was also could be adjusted in terms of loft or lie.
Yeah, which they have in the adjustable hosel on here. This is at 9.5 degrees. Got the El Dilla. This is the NV Green shaft, which is I know it's
stout.
It's been a popular model over the years. I believe John Rahm played it in a driver for a long time. And also I was going to shout out Damien in the chat who was thinking about purchasing a DS-Adapt X driver, and we're going to test that at the end, see how things have progressed from Cobra technology over the years. But we'll hit some shots here for this one first. This shaft is a little shorter than the others, so there's going to be a little bit of difference in the data there. But this will be good. It does just look like what you'd see as a driver shape, 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
This white stripe on the back is a little bit interesting. But
it's probably weight of some sort.
I'm sure it's kind of wraps around this back end. It's probably a weight thing.
Yeah, and even the call it the cell look in terms of the bottom there, having to do with aerodynamics, trying to kind of shed the air off in a certain direction to make that slipstream.
Wow.
Well, the other thing...
it was also a weird strike. It was kind of
there were a couple different models to this. So you started with like the Amp Cell, and then there was the Amp Cell Pro.
Yeah, so this is actually the Pro.
Is it? Yeah.
This is the more compact. Actually, we have a the standard here as well. This is the more compact. And even still, it looks kind of like it's a larger shape even, and it could just be the brighter color, which I guess as a whole in the industry, we've kind of gone away from like the lighter, brighter driver heads. And it's kind of just, you see basically black driver heads throughout.
Right.
But yeah, this is actually the Pro here.
Well, I mean, in to the credit, obviously this is a marketing technique as well. If pretty much everyone knows what like a guy like Tiger Woods would be playing, but if he's playing a driver and it's the only red one out there,
right,
when he was playing the red, it's kind of easy to, or the blue or whatever color it was.
That's what Nike did something similar with theirs.
Yeah, they'd have different colors as well. But if you're talking about, like, let's say for instance a Ping, a Callaway, a Titleist, and a TaylorMade, and they're all basically black on top, and then Ricky's swinging an orange driver.
Right.
We know what it is.
Right.
And so there's actually some marketability to that too. One of the things we talk about in our fittings is the idea of look and feel is not a measurable for me in terms of data, but look and feel are definitely something that the customer and all golfers is like, we're interested in, hey, does this have a certain look that I agree with or don't agree with? Some people, for the longest time, is like, people would just be, I can't handle the white driver. Like TaylorMade had, just a bright white. Or some people are, this happens, I had a customer, I don't know, a day or two ago that just said, I'm just really not a fan of the really glossy and the black. And it's like, okay, it may take that.
That eliminates a few models.
Well, it does, but that's okay because we ended up in a Cobra, the brand new Cobra, and he loved the matte finish on it. So shout out to Cobra. They got another guy hitting it really well.
Yeah, this has been interesting. We got a few different shots from there, and it was weird. TrackMan didn't pick up a couple of the numbers on a few of those, but actually, now that I see this, the carry number has been pretty consistent throughout.
Well, you didn't on a couple, but like for instance, I'm not worried about curvature or even like attack angle. They're up here, but we can't read it with this specific TrackMan. Mm-hmm. What I look for is a couple of things. We talk about this all the time. The idea of there's club speed and ball speed and smash. That gives us kind of an understanding about how fast the club's moving, the ball's moving, how fast it could move. But ideally, the four things we talk about all the time is ball speed, launch, spin, and direction. Those four things really happen. So let's do this. Let's get carry total.
Yeah, from a speed perspective, you could definitely tell there was some speed and there was some efficiency there, right? We're still at 145 for the average smash on some of those.
Yeah.
Which means it still, produces some energy at impact. Mm-hmm. There's still a lot there with this driver. And again, this is a shorter shaft than I'm going to hit with the other ones. So to that end, there's going to probably be more speed just by default with the other ones that I hit here. But I actually like how consistent that is from a dispersion perspective. I had the one that went left, but the distance didn't really change much on it.
Right. And so for that, we're looking at 275-yard carry plus or minus a yard and a half.
Right.
Like even the 300-yard total on average, plus or minus 3.6 yards. So that's what I'm looking for. Even in a fitting, we talk about this all the time. It's like I try to eliminate north and south as much as possible and leave you with kind of east and west. And the idea is that face angle changes on every club for every player on every swing. Mm-hmm. So face angle is going to be a little bit more of that directional piece. Yeah, there's a lot of variables that go into the direction, but on an average, if you're pretty consistent with most of the pieces of the puzzle, we'll take that all day long.
Yeah.
Now for you, like that may not be the most optimal, but that's also a really good way of starting to look at technology through the years. Is all right, what does this look like, feel like? Is technology getting better? Are we get better smash? Do we get better launch? Do we get better spin? Yeah. Also, and you talk about adjustability, right? At this point, there's I think three adjustments to that.
Yeah, this is the
open, closed, or neutral.
Yeah, that's basically where this was. This was the beginning stages for Cobra in terms of an adjustable hosel. I feel like the next driver we're going to hit leads into their, what was it, the MyFly 8, I think, where they had 8 settings.
Yes.
Which was the one that actually they had before. They changed it up this past year and went with 32 settings. Yep. So I did want to shout out to Martin in the chat right now who mentioned he's playing the LTDx Max and talked about how the LTDx was so good at the time and kind of considered this unicorn driver. We do have that one to test today.
Yep.
So we'll make sure to hit that one because we had the same, we saw the same things in fittings during that year for LTDx that it was really, really good.
Yeah.
So we make sure to bring that one today to hit. So.
Well, I don't have the Max K, which is what he's talking about. I grabbed the X. But if you look at any of the independent testing that's been going on, that has been going on for some other companies, the Cobra, the DS-Adapt Max K, which is kind of their 10K model, is one of the longest, straightest, some of the best numbers we've seen. Yeah, it is. So that actually happened to be the driver I put this customer into just a couple days ago, where he wasn't really a fan of kind of the gloss, and it's like that kind of shoots out 2 or 3 of the companies. And we put that in. He goes, I love the way it looks, feels. The good numbers are great. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got this next one here. I've got the F7, and this is a unique one. All the F series, Cobra drivers from that period. It was kind of maybe the middle 2010s, so to speak, where they were doing this. The F6, F7 throughout. You had different ways to adjust weight on the sole, and so here you've got basically 3 weight ports. Where you could have, they had 12 gram, 2 gram, and 2 gram is what they did here. Where there's actually a slot here with this model in the draw setting. There's a one in the back for high MOI, and there's one forward, and you can adjust based on the type of player you are. So if you are, you need some draw bias, this heavy orange weight that's 12 grams, you can move into the draw, and you can move things around based on your preference. So right now I've just got it in the sort of high MOI stable setting, but yeah, there's kind of a lot going on in the crown despite it being somewhat glossy. You see a couple different shapes on there. You have the big alignment aid that just says Cobra, which to me is a little much, but they've definitely adjusted that since this point.
Yeah, and even when you start talking about preferences, again, that was one of the things I said with look and feel is you might not like that, but someone else might love it just because, hey, I can line this up and I kind of know where my target's at and I need to see that frame of reference.
Yeah. So I've got, I actually grabbed from all the Darkspeed drivers that we have. I grabbed, this is the Link. This is, what do we got here? The QM40X white. This is a 6X.
Stout. That is a stout shaft.
So it's kind of a little bit more up my alley in that regard. So
you can let her buck.
Yeah. We'll let her rip. Should see some more distance right away from the last one.
Yeah.
I don't play a lot of cuts, but
it's okay, both sides.
I'll play that cut all day.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that feel was way softer than the last driver. Felt very soft. All right, that'll be interesting because that was a little toey, but it kind of took off. Would you say from a forgiveness perspective, Tyler, this is about the era where you saw companies really start to go after mishit performance? Because I think there was a stretch there where it was like speed, speed, speed. And now you kind of start to, in this era, this is probably, middle 2010s-ish, where this driver was released. Probably 2007 maybe, or 17, something in that range, where you saw a chase now for MOI and forgiveness. Not giving up speed, but a certain effort to go after that.
Yeah, I think around 2010 in that era, we definitely started to see some more manipulation. Both, you've got shafts that you can change up, you've got weights you can change up, so you've got different models, different shafts in general. As you start looking at all the options, I also believe as we start really digging in on the technology we had available, right? TrackMan wasn't really a thing in terms of where it wasn't a product on the market. We weren't fitting with that just yet. We really started, that's just about where TrackMan kind of started in.
Sure.
So now when we start looking at it, you say, well, what are we getting out of it? What we were getting is what the engineers and the testing that was done at these companies, it was in their initial testing, product testing. Now all of these different technologies are being utilized. So we say, for instance, all right, we've got this sort of ball speed, and we can set a robot up, hit it in this spot, find out if the ball speed's higher or lower. We can start to look at gear effect, and there's just so many different variables that go into engineering it nowadays. But I talked about this a couple of times in our driver through the years series, that as we've gone through the years in general, one of the things that's really happened with drivers is you've seen a certain number of legal limits, right? So the USGA and the RNA have size limits. The size of the head can't be more than 460 cc's. You can't get the MOI or the amount of weight down past.
It's becoming harder to make gains.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that we've talked about just in general, right? Like what differentiates someone that has a 10-year-old driver versus a 15 versus a 20. The gains are on the mishits.
Yep.
And everyone is in that camp now, and we have more technology that allows us to do that. One of the things that I first heard was, it was regarding a Cobra driver in general, and that was, the one thing that's not regulated is aerodynamics.
Yeah.
And what do we see?
They've gotten really creative with it.
They did, and
Yeah.
they have a lot of different. So do a lot of the other companies. We talk about like Ping with turbulators and the vortex in the back, and the. We talked about. Remember when Callaway? What did they have? Boeing come in, and they were talking about the speed rails on the top,
Yep.
and
now they've got. I mean, now their whole club head shape is. They say it's AI. I'm sure that's being used throughout the entire industry.
yeah.
But
Well, and
trying to find the ideal shape for reducing drag.
we saw that with the GT series. So. Right, the GT3 used to have a track in the back, or I'm sorry, the TSR3 had a track in the back for Titleist. They moved it up.
Yep.
They enclosed that. They made the adjustment screw hole way smaller, redefined the shape. So this is one of the areas that you're going to see some gains in.
Yeah, and so one thing with these shots in particular, there was it'd be that second shot there, shot 7 was a 143 smash. But you saw that gear effect a little bit, where the spin went down because it was a little toe shot.
Yeah.
And it actually was, in terms of total distance, very clearly the farthest one.
Right.
It was 314 yards, and actually was the farthest carry as well. And there's there's this kind of, if you're going to miss with a driver nowadays, miss high toe, because it's actually in some cases going to go further than you're already hitting it, depending on your spin rate.
Yeah.
So like here, I was spinning everything in that 2800 range, with the exception of this shot, and it actually went the furthest because it brought the spin down.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that gear effect you're talking about. Of as drivers progress now, we're in the mid 2010s region is where they started to really improve that.
And it's a tight circle too. It's not that we have to worry too much about.
Really consistent. I had a more consistent shot shape here. I was able, every shot was kind of a little fade.
Yeah, picking up essentially about 10 yards of carry and maybe looks like about 4 yards on average in total.
Yeah, that's a pretty good performance. I will say that I noticed this, for some reason, this face felt really soft. Could be, a number of things that contributed to that, but.
Well, and let me flip the script. We'll go back a little bit too, is even kind of talking way back through the years. Before we got into the adjustability, we were also talking about, many of the Cobra drivers that were really super hot. We still see customers coming in like with the SZ. It's that non-adjustable. It kind of looks like Bryson's crank driver now. It's got like a really super tall, high face, and it's got a real pointedness to it. And a lot of those drivers at the time where they had a lot of ball speed. Cobra was doing pretty well with the long drivers. They did a lot of long drivers back in the day, way back.
Cal Berkshire.
Yeah. Well, and they still do. Not to say that they all do. Who's coming out with who just released a 6-degree driver? Who did I see that?
I think that was Cobra, actually.
I think it was Cobra.
Yeah. They've got a head that is just for long drive.
Yeah.
One question that we should bring up here from William in the chat, he's asking, he said he's been testing a lot the DS-Adapt LS, looking for different shafts. He said he prefers actually the Fujikura Pro Black, which I think we're going to be hitting.
Yep.
He prefers that to the Velocore Plus Black, which is interesting.
Yep.
And then he also asked, how much more forgiving is the Max K compared to the LS? How much, miss-hit punishment will he see with the LS versus the Max K? So that's maybe something we can tackle here as we hit.
Yeah,
this is the LTDx, by the way, so we're going to hit that.
This is kind of, I would call this, pun intended, the king of Cobra's drivers.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's a good one, Tyler.
Yeah, I just thought of that too. But one of the things that we look at is we kind of go back through the years and we're looking at different drivers is ball speed, launch, spin, and direction. So to answer your question, William, one of the things that we will talk about with that is I'd call it 4 or 5 latest models that Cobra's put out. There are not just low spin models, extremely low spin.
Like this?
Yeah, like it's just very low spin. Now, we got a couple things with technology. We have a milled face. This is the first kind of to the market. So it's not, we don't want a smooth surface. We don't want a smooth surface on the face of the driver.
I don't know if you can see that, but that is hit way up here.
Yeah.
And it's Yeah, that's pretty
I'd
darn good.
Hit it there a little bit more often.
Right.
So the reason we don't is that we actually need some friction on the ball. So if you have grooves, and that's kind of with the milled face, the textures on the driver faces nowadays, there's a reason for that texture. You want the ball to kind of sit like on a groove on an iron to create spin, except with the loft, and we don't want the ball to slide on the face. You actually want it to kind of bite, so it's initial, it's going to come off with less spin if it has more bite on the face. That's one of the technologies that Cobra has really honed in on, and I'd say for quite a while, I'd say the last 6-7 years, if someone's come in and we really needed a drop spin, we pretty much went to a Cobra and see if we could eliminate that spin. They've really hit the market well on that. They went away from the milling on the face. So right now you don't see that milling, but you do see different textures. And that's one of the reasons, like sometimes you see something with grooves in the face, like why would there be grooves? TaylorMade's got actual small pits and grooves on their face as well. And it's actually to control the amount of spin.
Yeah.
To lower that type of spin.
I know I got one more shot here, but the spin control here has been really good with this one. Oh, if that stays right, okay. Kind of trapped that one a little bit, but.
And then there's a couple of other technologies. Cobra's introduced, one of the things that they did with this was called the infinity face.
Yes.
And that was where essentially there's a specific groove pattern that's made to try and kind of help what was happening with spin. They did it for another model and then they went away from it.
Which I'm surprised, I mean, I feel like it was really successful. The design, and I mean, it feels awesome in the shots that I just hit. But it was kind of a cool like separator a little bit too from kind of the rest of the industries and the using certain materials and the certain face designs.
Well,
they did really
there
well.
was a couple other things. The reason they went to this, at least from this technology, those faces are milled to a precise level.
Yeah.
So you could actually take that to a better thickness, because still at the time, almost every manufacturer would, once they've got that driver built, they still need to go to a sander, a sand belt, and take off any of the burrs. So it's kind of like the last thing they do before they finish it off with their paints and color schemes and things like that too. But you had to make sure that the face was smooth, and if this was part of their marketing campaign at the time, is if you left that on the sand belt a little too long, you thin out the face in an area.
Right.
Well, what this did is it allowed them to go to an exacting depth and provide a very, very stable face across every one of them. That's huge, because industry, consistency in the industry is also big.
Yeah.
I know there were broken drivers out there in this model, but I don't ever remember any of them coming in from me.
Right.
So.
Well, and another part of this too is this face design, the infinity or the CNC mill, infinity face they call it. They're wrapped underneath the sole and kind of wrapped around things, and so that, in a way, it helps with that outside or off-center hit locations too, especially low in the face. But I mean, bring up some numbers here because I'm curious. I had some really there's a distinct difference in spin for sure with this one compared to F7, and I know that was partly with the kind of the shot shape I was able to hit. This one I just turned over for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But you saw the ball speed was fractionally better, but this has been a notoriously low spin driver, this LTDx, which we already talked about with in the chat, and we saw it here. The spin went down, and the total distance went up. Now the carry is actually probably, what is it, about the same there? Actually, the F7's a little farther in carry distance, but it's pretty much the same. Yeah,
I would say that it's, well, again, right, I don't necessarily want to eliminate every shot, but you had
that last one I kind of, maybe trapped a little bit, but it's still a really good, quote unquote miss if you were to.
Let's cover that for a moment. We're still talking about 2 or 3 yards.
Yeah.
What we are talking about on the other side with lower spin is more rollout.
Yeah.
So that's
if you're a high-speed player looking for like a driver that controls spin and still performs really good, you can do a lot worse than LTDx.
Yeah, and so they had a couple of different models, as everyone is now branched into probably 3 models, if not 4. Sometimes you get into some specialties.
Yeah.
So this was a standard. They also made a low spin, which had weights up front. You also had more adjustability with weights. That's just one weight. You can change the amount, but not necessarily the position.
Right.
So center of gravity gets changed a little bit too.
So, okay, so now we can talk about DS-Adapt X. And the new one for 2025, we don't need to get it. We're not going to get into the adjustable hosel, but I know that's a big asset for you guys is to have all these options with the hosel and the adjustments that you can do. That's a big feature here. And of course, this is in terms of the appearance at a dress, this to me is the cleanest right now there is. It's just that matte black, smooth, nothing distracting if you're the person that's picky about that stuff.
Yeah.
This is a really, really good driver to look at to me.
One of the things I like about this is, again, all these different technologies. What we've talked about through the drivers in any of the models of manufacturers, they continue to build on successes, right?
Yep.
Right after was it maybe the LTDx? Did that one have a power bridge in it? You flipped that over?
I don't know. I think Aerojet was the first.
Was Aerojet the
yeah,
power
the year
bridge?
after, yeah, with the power bridge. I think there's probably something internal here that's close to that,
Yeah.
and then they sort of solidified it and marketed it as the power bridge. But
so, one of the things that engineers are trying to do is they're trying to keep the energy in the face for the ball speed. And one of the things that we see with technology many, many years ago we talked about with Callaway was the jailbreak.
yes.
And so there are all sorts of companies that have very similar types of results with this right now. It's just that they maybe call it something different. And so these are all these are all technologies that we're trying to rely on no matter the company. The other thing I really like about the current model of the DS-Adapt is the ability if someone says, well, this looks closed. Well, if it looks closed, we can.
Wow. That is crazy. I thought this ball was going to be, in this bunker over here.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Tyler, but
No, it's good.
I had an instinct reaction to panic when I hit that, and it actually ended up really good.
But I can't tell you how many times someone says, well, I don't like the look. And I say, well, what is it about the look? Is there anything specific? Well, it sits open.
Right.
Great. Let me close it for you.
Yeah, that's what the house
And
is
then,
for.
oh, this looks way better. What Cobra's done is kind of revolutionized the game yet again. They have the largest amount of adjustability in a shaft. It's called Future Fit 33. There are actually, I believe, 36 positions, but a couple of them double up.
Okay.
So there's like
And a lot of them are, there's a lot of overlap with some of them too.
A
when you
little
have
bit,
that
yeah.
many. But yeah,
But there's 33 different positions, unique positions that the shaft can get put into. And again, that's changing the loft and or the lie angle of it, or both at the same time.
yeah.
That kind of separates this as a technology because now you have plus or minus 2 degrees in loft or lie.
Which is, that's really nice
giant.
to work with. Yeah.
It's giant.
I will say one thing too that, they changed the face. There's no more of that CNC milled infinity face, but I
Right.
do like that they have these, scoring lines, so to speak,
Frame
that
it.
line things up really well. Like
Yeah.
you look down at it and you're centered up pretty well. I like that a lot. There's a couple other manufacturers that are doing something similar out there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that was a miss. That was one of those like high toe ones. That kind of squirted out there a little to the right. Yeah, that was good.
There you go. And one of the things we were talking about earlier, we had that question about, the forgiveness aspect in terms of maybe slice correction as well. There's a lot of factors that kind of go into any swing, and we have to look at all of them. It's not just one thing. But what I look at is, can I influence, am I getting good ball speed, launch, spin, and direction? If it's the direction that's the issue, we can try to help kind of mitigate some of the issues with direction, but there's only so much the club's going to do. If you're getting the best ball speed you can, good launch, good spin, then it's not necessarily the technology as much as it is working on the swing and or, like one of the ones that a lot of people I see on a day-to-day basis and customers is like, let's try to, I'm going to adjust that driver to try and change the hit location.
Right.
Right, so if you're on the heel, that may be one of the things that loses ball speed, drops loft, and adds spin.
Right.
But if I can set that up in the exact same driver where you catch it in the middle or to the toe, all of a sudden it straightens itself out, it goes higher, spins less, it's straighter, longer, and farther. So one of the things I try to focus on is hit location. We have hit location with our TrackMans. It's an important piece of this puzzle. So for instance, if I look at any one of these, like this one is probably for you right now the best in the hit location.
Yeah, it definitely felt
As we're
the
going
best
through
throughout,
here,
yeah.
you know, that was pretty good. You had one that was high here, but that's the best hit location so far.
Yeah.
So as we start looking at it, you've got some more carry distance. You've got the longest, which
Yeah.
is good. You've also got a couple of the others that are the longest in there.
Yeah.
And the other factor to that too is if you're looking at it from an overall perspective. So you take a look at the overall distance at 314. Well, that's pretty good coming off of about 300
Yeah.
without a large difference in carry distance.
Right.
275, 83, 86, 88.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the
So-
end of the day, hitting the newest here, and again, we talked about the shaft length maybe playing a little bit of a role here, but there's 14, and a little bit over 14 yards of carry, a little
Yeah.
bit about 14 yards of total.
Yeah.
That I gained just by hitting the newest driver. I will
Yeah.
say though, the dispersion ovals for especially the F7 and the LTDx are fantastic up there too.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, and this
Right.
is not that this one's bad either. I mean,
No.
I was hitting that high cut pretty consistently. I had actually I still can't believe that second shot I hit with this turned out as good as it did. That was a crazy one. I like panicked when I hit it because I thought it was like a shut heel sort of hook. And it ended up, yeah,
Kinda
that
was.
was the contact, and to see it result the way it did, it was kind of wild to me.
Yeah, and even from that, you see down on the bottom the numbers right down here. You still got one of your highest ball speeds.
I know.
Which is good.
Yeah, it just felt not good, and then, yeah, that was. I know we're getting some comments about kind of the look. Again, to me, it's the best looking driver out there. I'm playing a ZXi right now, the ZXi LS, which is really close in the look, but this
Yeah.
is just a little bit more kind of blacked out, so to speak, and I like that a lot. Just lines things up really well too. This is a really close, like the Strixon's a close second, but I think I like this in pure looks for sure.
So they've got 4 main models. This is the X, which is kind of, well, let's call it the baseline consumer product. They do have an LS. That LS is a little different though. It is a little bit smaller in cc's, so the shape is a part of it. It's much more rounded. You do have some more adjustability in the LS. You've got 3 different weight ports. So you can kind of go front, you can go heel toe, and you can go
Yeah.
back. The X has 2, you can go front or back with more weight, less weight. That definitely is a huge impact in terms of launch and spin
Yeah,
capability.
the heavier weight here is actually forward with this one right now.
It is.
So
Yeah.
it's playing a little bit more like an LS.
Yeah.
Still, there's still some high MOI here, and then the Max K as well has those options.
Well, no, the Mac K has just 1 weight in the back.
Does it? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was my William had just mentioned. I wish they had the adjustable back / heel weights on the Max K like the LS.
Right.
Because the Darkspeed Max had it, and so
Yep.
there is that piece of the Max K, which is similar to the G430 Max, where they don't have. It's just kind of that fixed weight in the back, which is it's a lot of weight to stabilize.
Yeah,
it,
and that's the point. Like, if you wanted adjustability, you'd just get the X.
right.
If you want the most amount of, call it MOI or twist on
Yeah.
off-center hits, you want all the weight you can get as far away as you can possibly get it. There was quite a time, actually, because talk about the LTDx, let's go back to that.
Yeah.
That may have been, and I know it was one of their first models where they had the MOI was below the center of gravity line in that driver. And that was one of the first things that allowed them to create high launch and low spin.
That's gonna because in terms of high launch low spin,
Yeah.
I still think LTDx is they've
Yeah.
been maybe meeting the bar, but the LTDx certainly set a new bar for Cobra.
And if you go back to that model and compare others in that year from other manufacturers, you started to see, as an example, the Sim. That was TaylorMade Sim. Well, what they did was they had that weight all the way back there as much as they could.
Yep.
And from that point forward, you started to see more and more of the companies go to a shape like that.
Yeah, you see this shape replicated a lot out
and that's
there.
because what they're trying to do is get that weight down as far away as possible.
Yep.
And now, if
And you also, it hides, by the way, you can't see it at address either, which is
Right.
an aesthetics thing. Like I can't see that weight, there's nothing there to look at, but obviously you look on the backside and you see that weight, very fixed back here. It's
Yeah.
very much a part of the design of the club, you can tell.
Yeah, and if you look at today's equipment, a lot of them have that similar back look.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that a lot of companies started to do in order to create that low MOI was get a weight down and back.
Yeah.
And I'd say there's a lot of refinements. The LS is one where it's much more rounded. It's a very different shape to that. I think aerodynamically they've kind of gotten away from that boxy squared weight in the back. But we still see a lot of manufacturers, in fact every one of them, still has that kind of Titleist change. They really aerodynamically curved up the back end of it. But prior generations had a kind of a squared off flat
Well, there was a
back.
period there too, and we can kind of start to wrap a little bit, but there was a period with Cobra, I think Mizuno even in particular sticks out, where there was like, it was about adjustability, let's move weight around, and it was just like, it got clunky, it messed with the aerodynamics, and now we're seeing things get really cleaned up there, where a lot of the, there's still the ports there, or however you want to adjust the weights, but it's really clean and aerodynamic friendly.
Yeah.
Where now you're not sacrificing that part of it, which Cobra's done a really good job with. And again, LTDx is fantastic. You can go back to the F7 that we hit, which was awesome. Like, I know there was someone in the chat that said they found their driver on eBay for $24.
Yeah.
Might be time for an upgrade. You got some good options and that we tested here today.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to, right? We have such a huge selection, and I'm talking like, come in, get fitted for the new stuff. If you're not by one of our stores, you can go online and get an online fitting. You can call in, get a phone fitting. We can go through those options. We can talk about what's going on.
Yep.
See what we've got. We also have our playability guarantee, where you get to get out there, try, buy it, try it, and if we need to, maybe we change that up on something. And then on top of that, we start talking about like last year's models.
Yeah, Darkspeed.
We've had this conversation before, and we have to have it again. Last year's models may not be a gigantic difference in terms of technologies and or results. But if you find something that is big for you, great, we're good on that. But if you are looking for the budget side of this too, it's like we have the stuff that's brand new this year that is used in inventory.
Yeah.
And if that's a good fit, you're going to be able to save yourself some money.
Yeah.
Still get the current product in your hand.
There's options. There's options So Damien in the chat, I know he was waiting to see the DS-Adapt X because he was thinking about purchasing it. I don't know if this is going to have him over the hump or not. If it's not, we got options for him to work on and try out, and we can work with him on that. But this is awesome. Cobra Drivers, it's been, I think sometimes slept on a little bit, but hopefully today we showed like there's a lot of technology performance in the Cobra brand. They've done some really big things with their gyro technology over the years. So, so Tyler, thank you for joining. This was great. Golfers, if you want to see any other brands, the last several Thursdays we've done different brands. Go back and check those out. Otherwise, stay tuned every Thursday for Live at Lunch. We're live at 1 p.m. Central. Tyler, I'll let you sign off here.
Awesome. Keep your grooves clean and stay razor sharp.